No, that was the official gavel. And I want to welcome everyone to the April 6, 2015 meeting of the Abingdon, Virginia Town Council. A couple of points that we usually have at the beginning of our meeting. First of all, if you have a cell phone, please do us a favor, turn it off, put it on silent, something like that, so we won't be disturbed during the course of the meeting. Also, there are copies of the preparation materials that our council receives prior to each meeting that is on the table there to my left. You're more than welcome to have a look at that and see some of the materials that went into preparing us for the meeting tonight. That being said, it's customary to begin our meetings with the roll call, actually. I'm about to slide on into another point here. I'll ask our clerk and assistant town manager, Ms. Cecile Rosenbaum, if she will call the roll, please.
Mrs. During?
Here.
Mr. Howard?
Here.
Mr. Humphreys?
Here.
Mrs. Lowe?
Here.
Mayor Morgan?
Here.
And let the record reflect that all 5 council members are present.
Thank you very much. And at this time, I'll call upon our Chief of Police, Mr. Tony Sullivan, to come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly, it's as you know, it is customary at the beginning of our meetings to acknowledge employees who have reached certain milestones with their service to the town of Abingdon. I believe there's one employee here tonight that might have started working sometime before I was born for the town. And I'll tell you what, I'll turn this aspect of our program over to you at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, members of the public. It is always an honor to recognize employees for their longevity with the town of Abingdon. I think I've stood before the council here a couple of times and awarded 30 and 40-year recognitions for employees and thought that, well, probably wouldn't ever do anything any higher than that. Well, tonight we're going to do one that's quite a bit higher than that. We have Glenn Foster, who everybody knows, obviously, as you gave him a round of applause when he walked in tonight. But Glenn has now been with the town of Abingdon for 50 years. And he tells me he has no intention of slowing down or retiring. So
I'll you leave.
I was going to say that I probably would never give one out higher than this, but I'm not going to jinx myself on that one because I dare say I might be back here or somebody may be sitting here that gives out one for 60 years at some point in time. But I do want to say about Glenn, he works for our sewer department. He's a friend of he knows no enemies. He's a friend of everybody. And there's nothing that he wouldn't do for me or anybody else out there. Many times when he's out working in the public and a member of the public has a problem that they need addressed, Glenn doesn't ask a lot of questions about it. He goes ahead and offers his assistance and help, and everybody is very appreciative. Don't know that I've ever received any type of negative comment at all about Glenn since the time I've been town manager. And I feel very honored to have been able to have worked with him for 10 years myself. And I know my father, who was here a lot of years, he was here in excess of 40 years, and I know he enjoyed working with you for a lot of those years as well. So I'm extremely proud of you, Glenn, and I've got a plaque that I'd like for you to come up and get. But before I give Glenn the plaque, let's all stand up again and give him a big round of applause.
Well, I hope to have at least 12 more years to go.
All right.
It'll take me 62 years on the job.
All
And I don't feel a day over 25, 30 years old. I may look if I don't feel it.
Too
No.
close.
Thank you, Glenn, for all that all that you've done.
We got to do our handshake.
Oh, Glenn wants us to do our handshake.
Thank you all very much for letting me work here this long.
Well, I'm just thinking that the only one in the town's history that may have served the town longer than you would be Harry Coombs. And what did he have in, 52 years, something like that? Yeah, as a member of the town council, and you're right on his heels, you ought to be able to beat
I
Harry.
hope so. I hope you all live forever and I get to go to your funeral.
I think the other thing we need to note is that, Glenn's had one of the real glamour jobs in the town. And you've been in the sewer department most of the
We
years?
got the least desirable job in town, but we do get pride.
People count on you.
We just finished one about 20 minutes ago.
All right.
That's why you're late.
Yeah, I'll tell you about it later.
And I hope you wash that hand before you...
You want to shake my hand?
Yes, come on up here, and then we will. Thank you, and God bless you for all you've done for us.
Oh, thank you a lot.
Let's get whoa, pardon.
Get over this way.
All right, we all tightened up enough here.
Well, I've taken about 20 already.
Not everybody does birthday. Today is his birthday.
It is Glenn's birthday.
Glenn's birthday.
Well, I want to say something too. There's one man in here that was born when I started working for the town. John McCormick. His dad was my boss, a very good boss. I've got a story written, and I want to give you all so you all can read it, publish it. I got 3 pages. I'll bring it to you one day this week.
Thank you.
Sounds good. When I first started out, what I've done, and what I've continued to do to help everybody in this town.
And you
I
have.
love this town.
You have.
Thank you so much.
Town loves you, Glenn. I love it. I love everybody lives here, everybody works there.
Except for Jimmy Stewart.
Are you gonna list all the women's names?
Hey, Glenn.
Yes. You got all that. That's the way. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and, and we say that sincerely. It's a wonderful thing to have somebody who is as dedicated as you are, who's put in so much service to the town, and is universally respected by, I think, everybody that knows you. And thank you so much for everything you do and continue to do for us.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, very good. Well, folks, I think that's as good as it's going to get tonight.
Shall I move we adjourn, Mr. Mayor?
There's rumor of a basketball game, and we won't have too many barriers between us and the television tonight. But that being said, we do have a couple of other items that need to be handled this evening. I see that I was remiss, and in the excitement of the 50th anniversary of Glenn Foster, I overlooked the approval of minutes, which is a required item. We have several. We've had a busy month during March, and we have for our consideration this evening minutes for March the 2nd, 2015, the work session, the regular meeting minutes of that night, then budget work session minutes of March the 4th, also March 11th budget work session. We did that again on the 18th, and by golly, we had it added again on the 25th. So I have 6 sets of minutes from the month of March for your consideration. Council, are there any corrections or additions that need to be noted to these minutes? Hearing none, I'm receptive to a motion regarding all 6 of them.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes for March the 2nd work session, regular session, March the 4th budget, March 11th budget work, March 18th budget work, and March 25th budget work session as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second his motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes that were listed. Any further discussion or comment? Hearing none, I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Jerry?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye, but I'd like to abstain from the meetings I missed.
Okay. And Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Okay, thank you. Then we have, under petitions and public hearings, first reading of ordinances, we have a public hearing this evening, proposed rezoning, consideration of Clifton Stewart Developers LLC, 16325 Taylor Place, Abingdon, Virginia. There's applicants and application to rezone the property located at 484 Colonial Road in Abingdon. It consists of 0.38 acres, and the move is to change it from R3 residential to office and institutional. And this is listed as tax map number 018-1-28. And I'll call upon Mr. Matthew Johnson, our Director of Planning, to carry us through this, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tough act to follow with Glenn there. But,
Yes, it is.
let's see here. We'll go ahead. I've got a couple of quick slides to show you here. The location for the proposed rezoning is 484 Colonial Road, and as you stated, R3 to office and institutional for 0.38 acres. The location of the lot is, as you can see where the arrow is pointing on the screen there, 484 Colonial Road. I wanted to note that across the railroad tracks on Main Street, you see there is commercial zoning B2 and B3 to the north. There's one lot that separates it from the east. There's additional office and institutional to the east. R3 is this sort of yellow color that is to the west, and then M1, which is limited industrial, to the south. It's generally planned for low-density development, residential, per the 2007 future land use map, which is in the comprehensive plan. We use that as a guide for our decision-making. It is not a rule that we have to keep it as such, hence the request for rezoning. Office and institutional district is a limited in nature. It appears to have been designed to allow some sort of mix between residential and some service businesses and small professional offices. The applicant, Mr. Stewart, wishes to sell the property to a new owner who they're here this evening to use this as a financial services office. I did look at the comprehensive plan as we considered this, and there are a couple of policies for land use. Land use policy number 2 for development opportunities suggests that infill development and redevelopment of underutilized property should be encouraged and promoted. I'd be happy to answer any questions about this. The Planning Commission voted unanimously in favor at their March 23rd meeting to recommend in favor for council to rezone.
I will ask one question.
Sure.
In times past, there have been concerns raised at zoning, hearings that I've attended about the issue of spot zoning. You mentioned that there was some office and institutional nearby, and some other business zoning and so forth. Is there any reason to think that this could be construed as spot zoning?
Not in my opinion.
Okay, very good. Do others have questions of Mr. Johnson while we're here before I open the public hearing? Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate you giving us an overview on that. That being said, we will now have a public hearing on this. Mr. Johnson, our planner, has outlined the nature of the proposed rezoning from residential to office and institutional. I will now declare the public hearing to be open. And if there is anyone present who wishes to address the council regarding this matter, they're welcome to come forward at the present time. And we'd ask, sir, that you come up to the front and speak loudly, or at least clearly. Sometimes the microphone works well, sometimes it doesn't. And state your name and address, please, for the record.
Yes, sir. My name is Alex Gibson. I live at 369 Oakmont Drive in Abingdon, Virginia. I own Gibson Financial Services. We're the proposed buyers of the property. We run a financial services firm. We've been in town since 2008, located at West Main Street. We're hoping to buy the property for our business. We think the property fits our needs perfectly. We're a low-traffic business, so we think we fit the area very well. We've actually spoken to the neighbor next to the property. She wrote a letter in favor of the rezoning. We tried to speak to the neighbor on the other side of the property, and he was unresponsive. But we have done a lot of research. We feel like we can meet all the needs of the property for this rezoning, and we feel like we'll do the town a good thing here by keeping this area fixed up.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions regarding Mr. Gibson? We thank you, sir, for
Thank
coming
you.
forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the council regarding this matter? All right. Glenn? No? Okay. No. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Again, is there anyone else who wishes to address the council regarding this proposed rezoning? There does not appear to be anyone else who wishes to address the council on this matter. I will therefore declare the public hearing to be closed. Council, what are your thoughts about this, and do you have any questions that we want to ask Mr. Johnson or our town manager about this?
Mr. Mayor, I don't have any question or anything, just a couple of comments. Mr. Kelly and I were on the board that voted unanimously to rezone this. This is a very typical property and also one where the planning commission, being well aware of the change in that neighborhood, it's on Colonial Road. It actually fronts Main Street, and that it is lending itself to having a small business like that that Mr. Gibson is looking to put in. And I think being adaptive in nature and looking at in our infield really benefits us in this situation. There's several houses over there. I think that just from I'm speaking just from me. Nothing else. I'm really hoping that Mr. Stewart will rehab some others, because there's a couple others that desperately need rehab, and his tender hand.
Absolutely. Well, I will note that neighborhood is, none of those houses in that neighborhood and in Frog Level have, it's really sort of an up-and-coming neighborhood. It's nice to see those changes coming forward. Are there other members that wish to comment or ask questions about this? Council, what's your pleasure regarding this matter?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the rezoning request to rezone this from R3 to O&I, office and institutional.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it. That's on first reading.
Right. Yeah, there will be a second reading on this. Okay, again, we have a motion and a second to approve the proposed rezoning on the first reading to make the change from R3 residential to office and institutional. Any further comment? Hearing none, I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Daring? Aye. Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. And again, we're required on these zoning matters and so forth to have a second reading, which we will anticipate on in May. But thank you very much, and we'll look forward to this. Okay? Council, our next item is, take care. Don't be in a rush. All right, our next item is consideration of a resolution of the Council of the Town of Abingdon, Virginia, to establish a new revenue-sharing project, being the Green Springs Road Realignment Project, and to add the project to VDOT's 6-year improvement program, and to transfer existing revenue-sharing funds from Frenchmore Junior Boulevard Extension to the Green Springs Road Alignment Project. And Mr. Dew, I believe you're going to tell us about this?
I hope so. Mayor Morgan, members of council, I'm here tonight to, give an introduction to what we're trying to accomplish here with this public hearing and possible resolution as well. I think we've reached a point where the realignment of Green Springs Road has probably taken on more importance and urgency for several reasons: traffic, safety, and access management purposes. And step one for us to gain access or potential to get VDOT road building funds, we have to have it established in their 6-year plan as a project. We currently, we've just recently completed a couple projects, but we also have one currently in the planning phases. But in order to bump this one up or elevate it to the importance that we have with it right now, we have to establish it as a project with VDOT.
All righty. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Dew about this?
Does it take Frenchmore Junior Boulevard off the 6-year plan, or it just moves it down?
It does not. We can still, every year they ask us to prioritize our projects, and so it will still be on there unless we choose or ask it to be removed from the plan.
Okay.
I would point out that Frenchmore Boulevard was initially Phase 1 and Green Springs was Phase 2. Basically, all we're doing is trying to switch to Green Springs being Phase 1 and then Frenchmore being Phase 2.
And that may help with some traffic issues there on Cumming Street here over time, too. Okay. Any questions again of Mr. Dew? Okay. Council, we have a proposed resolution for our consideration. I believe it's customary to read it into the record. And
Mr. Mayor, if I could
yeah.
interrupt, we need to do the public hearing first before we do the resolution.
Well, I guess we could, by God. Thank you. I'm needing some help to keep me straight tonight, and I thank you very much. Okay. And again, we have if you bear with me kind of while I get back on track here, I've lost my place a little bit.
You're all right.
81.
I'm sorry? What?
You're okay.
2.
All right. All right, AB1, okay, thank you. All right, I'm back here right now. Okay, and that brings us into where we have consideration for our public hearing, again, to consider the repeal, amendment, and reenactment of, well, I'm on the wrong one yet, good golly. Consideration of a resolution of the council of the town of Abingdon to essentially establish the Green Springs Road realignment project as our top priority instead of the revenue sharing funds being directed towards Frenchmore Boulevard as priority number 1. That being said, we are required to have a public hearing before we consider a resolution of this sort, and I will now declare the public hearing regarding this matter to be open. If there is anyone who wishes to address the council regarding this matter, they're welcome to come forward at the present time. I don't see anybody who seems to be interested in addressing us regarding this matter. Last call. All right. It appears that there is no one who wishes to address the council regarding the matter. I will therefore declare the public hearing to be closed. All right. And council, we have a resolution for our consideration here. And if someone will remind me what item that is.
2A.
All right, page, okay, I've got it right here. All right, I have a resolution of the council of the town of Abingdon, Virginia, and I will read this into the record, and I'll try to be brief about it, but we will have this for our consideration, and after I read it, I will entertain a motion regarding this matter. And I have a resolution of the council of the town of Abingdon, Virginia, to establish a new revenue sharing project, being the Green Springs Road Realignment Project, and add the project to VDOT's 6-year improvement program, and to transfer existing revenue sharing funds from the Frenchmore Junior Boulevard extension to the Green Springs Road Realignment Project. And whereas in November of 2012, the town of Abingdon, by both application and resolution of the town council, requested the Virginia Department of Transportation to establish a new revenue sharing project for the extension of the existing Frenchmore Junior Boulevard to the intersection of Stone Mill Road, extending further and connecting into Cook Street. And whereas the council was awarded revenue sharing funds for the preliminary engineering phase of the Frenchmore Junior Boulevard project in the amount of $1,104,000, half of that, $552,000 being state match revenue, and an equal amount being the locality's match for revenue sharing. And the project was established as item numbers 0372-140, R68, P101, UPC number 104231. And whereas now therefore be it resolved, the council is now desirous of establishing the Green Springs Road Realignment Project as a revenue sharing project, adding this project to VDOT's 6-year improvement program and designating this project as its highest priority to improve traffic flow and level of service and eliminate a poor intersection and high accident location. Whereas now therefore be it further resolved, the council is also desirous of transferring the remaining revenue sharing funds in the amount of $854,000, $427,000 being state match revenue and $427,000 being locality match revenue sharing from the Frenchmore Junior Boulevard Revenue Sharing Project, UPC 104231, to the Green Springs Road Realignment Project. And council, I will entertain a motion regarding this matter.
I'll make that motion. Okay, I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve this resolution as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution as presented. Council, is there any further discussion or questions regarding this matter? Hearing none, I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Deering?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Logue?
Aye.
Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. Our next item is a public hearing, first reading, consideration of an ordinance to repeal, amend, and reenact Chapter 7, Article 3 of Town Licenses, that's Section 70-66 through 70-78 of the Code of the Town of Abingdon, Virginia, to eliminate the requirement of display of a decal to approve payment of town motor vehicle license tax. Ms. Eisenhower,
Yes, sir.
tell us about this, please.
Mr. Mayor, Honorable Council, this proposed amendment is enabled pursuant to the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, 46.2, 752. The amendment serves simply to bring us into compliance with the Town Code Section 7066 through 7078. And what exactly this will operate to do is remove any and all references to decals on automobiles. Since we've done that for several years, it's about time that we came into compliance with that particular language. It was recently discovered. Legal Department recommends that this ordinance amendment be endorsed on the first reading, thereby dispensing with the second reading and becoming effective on May 6, 2015.
All righty, thank you. Does anyone have any questions of Ms. Eisenhower regarding this matter? It has been a few years since any of us on the council put a decal on our car. That's not to say we didn't have our taxes paid, but I do understand what we're doing here. Okay, thank you very much. We are required to have a public hearing regarding this matter, and the issue before us is to basically amend and reenact our code regarding a requirement that you have a town decal on your car showing that you paid your property taxes, so to speak, on that car. And it has been, we eliminated the direct payment for that some years ago. How did we handle that? We basically moved it from...
It's still a collectible charge with
Yes.
personal property taxes, but
Right.
We've eliminated the requirement of actually displaying the decal.
Yeah, we haven't required the decal be displayed for several years, but apparently the law stayed on the books. And at the present time, I will declare the public hearing to be open regarding this matter. Does anyone present wish to address the council regarding this? And I do not see anyone who wishes to address the council regarding this matter. I will therefore declare the public hearing to be closed. And council, I will entertain a motion regarding this matter.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we repeal, amend, and reenact Section 70-69, repeal Section 70-73 and 70-74, repeal Section 70-76 and 70-77, and repeal, amend, and reenact 70 and 78, and amend 70-69,
Is there a...
and endorse on the first reading.
And when you say endorse on the first reading, that meaning to dispense with the necessity
Yes.
of a second reading. Nicely done. That was, all right, very good. Now, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and I'm frankly not going to recite all that again. But I think we have the gist of what we're doing. Is there any further discussion or questions about this? Hearing none, I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Journey?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
Mayor Moore?
Aye, thank you. We have consideration of bids at the present time, and I see Mr. Dew coming forward here. We have consideration of bids for asphalt resurfacing in the town. Mr. Dew, tell us about this, and you might even touch a little bit, too, on where we plan to resurface.
I'll be glad to. Mayor Morgan, members of council, on March 27th, we received bids for our annual asphalt resurfacing work project. We had 2 bidders submit bids that day. W&L Construction and Paving was the low bidder with a total of $353,932.10. The scope of work this year is going to cover Valley Street from Russell Road to Court Street, also Stanley Street from Walden Road to Thompson Drive, Colonial Road from Preston Street to Holston Street, and Railroad Street from Pecan Street to the west end at the Creeper Trail Annex there just below the Martha Washington Inn. And the bids were in compliance. We do have money budgeted in 2 different items in the street department budget to cover the cost for this. So my recommendation is to award contract to W&L Construction and Paving for their bid amount of $353,932.10.
Very good, sir. And this is more or less an annual ritual with us,
Yes.
if I recall, that we're trying to cycle various streets through the town for repaving.
Exactly.
All righty. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Dew about this matter?
My standard question now on bids is, do you feel like this is the best bid?
I certainly do, yeah. Just a little brief history on basketball night here, but we used to, for a long period of time, we were only getting 1 bid. But even last year is when this other bidder started also submitting the bids for the paving, and I think we have realized some benefit from the competition, and I do feel like this is a good bid for us.
Very good. And we have worked with that firm in the past.
Quite a few times, yes.
All right. So, and they are the low bidder.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And,
Where are they from, the Rogers Group?
The Rogers Group, they're from Tennessee, or their main office is in Tennessee, but they also have an office over here in Russell County now as well, and a asphalt plant. So they just recently did the paving for the pedestrian improvements project on Oak Hill and Court Street and Whites Mill.
Very good. Council, what's your pleasure regarding this?
I move that we accept the bid that you recommend and that we authorize the town to execute any necessary paperwork.
Okay, and we would note that that was the low bid, and would we quote the amount one more time to the record?
I'd be glad to. It's $353,932.10.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
Second.
The item and a second. Is there any further discussion or comment? Hearing none, I'll ask Ms. Rosenbaum to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Journey?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Thank you. And then, under reports from the town manager, we have consideration of the town's audit report for fiscal year 2013-2014. Mr. Tucker, please.
Drop something. Drop something. Drop something.
Okay.
Thought might be a notice.
Or money.
Good evening, Harry.
All right.
I'll briefly go over the audit report with you. As we spoke earlier in the work session, I think the biggest pages that would be most concerned with are the basically how much reserves and how you did during the year. The town had a deficit this past year, which is largely due, to the work on the Creeper Trail. The preceding year, you had sort of a surplus from the insurance funds for the repair work, which I think the expenditures are about $1.2 million or so on the Creeper Trail this year. And there's sort of a timing difference between the two, so you're going to have a Last year, in 2013, you had a surplus, and this year, in 2014, you had a deficit, which sort of net themselves out for that.
And Mr. Tucker, when you mentioned that an expenditure regarding the creeper trail, I believe you're referencing the replacement of the trestle.
That's correct.
Damaged during the tornado, and I think we received the money from the insurance company in 1 year and spent it in the replacement one.
It's over $1 million, I want to say $1.5 million or something.
Okay.
Remember, the exact amount was a good sum.
Okay.
So those funds were in the preceding fiscal year, the expenditures from this one, so they kind of offset one another over a 2-year period.
Okay.
There are some other things that happened this past fiscal year that were unique, where the town borrowed some additional funds for some projects at the Coombs Center and some purchase of some property and all. Those also kind of added to the deficit, but again, those are, you're sort of changing cash for property, so it's not really you're buying a piece of real estate with your money instead of something else. As far as the sewer fund, it did fairly well this year. It had somewhat of a surplus. Partly that was due to some refinancing, also some timing issues and such. As I probably told you in the past, some years you're going to have good years in the sewer department, some years you're not. So this year you had a pretty good year, which is probably partially due to the exit 19, where you're no longer involved with the county, that type of thing, because you had some income and not a lot of expenses this time for that. As far as the finances of the town is very solid as far as your reserves and all. I don't see any issue. I mean, your surpluses and all are good. I mean, I don't. As far, your reserves are good. I'm sorry. As far as being sound financially, I think you're fine. Okay.
Very good. We did sort of have a preliminary review of this in the work session, but Council, do you have any questions or concerns that you want to use this opportunity to ask Mr. Tucker about? Anyone? No. Okay, Mr. Kelly, any comments about it or anything?
No, sir, other than I would just, again, reiterate what Mr. Tucker had indicated, that in last year's budget message, I did indicate to the council that because we got the insurance money in the prior year, it showed as a surplus, and in all likelihood, since it would be spent out the following year, it would show as a deficit. Between that and the acquisition of the Russell Road properties and Russell Road property and the Colonial Road property, I think it's pretty much a balance between the 2 years.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Council, I'll entertain a motion regarding this. An appropriate motion might be to accept the audit as presented.
I'll make that form of motion that we accept the audit as has been presented.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the audit as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all right, we have a motion and a second to accept the audit as presented. Further comment or discussion? Hearing none, I'll again ask Ms. Rosenbaum to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Deering.
Aye.
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries.
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe.
Aye.
Mayor Morgan.
Aye. Thank you very much. We have a presentation also this evening now by Highlands Community Services of Washington County Coalition for the Prevention. Let's try that again. It's listed as the Highlands Community Services Washington County Coalition Prevention Project. And we have Ms. Jordan Whiteside, who is a project director assistant with us this evening.
Yes. Good evening. Thank you for having me. Like you said, my name is Jordan Whiteside. I'm with the Washington County Prevention Coalition. I think this is my 4th time being here presenting on this project, so thank you for having me. But tonight I'd like to share the outcomes of our project. Just a quick overview. We got this project in 2012. It's a state grant to reduce motor vehicle crashes among 18 to 24-year-olds in Washington County. Our data after our community assessment showed the crashes occurred Sunday morning, 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. in the months of July and December in the Monroe and Taylor districts. These crashes were happening mainly among the 21 to 24 males in our county. And when we asked them why do they decide to drink and drive, they said they have a low risk of getting caught. They didn't think they'd get caught by law enforcement. So we came up with 3 strategies. One strategy is to have more saturation patrols. And we have a media campaign, Keep the Party Alive, Don't Drink and Drive. And we also have the Basics program in our local colleges. We first concentrated the saturation patrols in July and December in our hotspot locations. We also created promotional items with our message, Keep the Party Alive, Don't Drink and Drive, in our local businesses. We have these posters. You all may have seen these. We're now in over 30 convenience stores and restaurants throughout the county. We also have these coasters that we give out to our restaurants. Wolf Hills has these, Bonefire has these, JJ's, and McAdoo's at the Emory exit. We also give out these koozies to our participants for filling out surveys and participating in focus groups. We also have banners in our beer gardens for the community events that we have here. We have banners in field parties and also on the campuses. Law enforcement, they give out these keychains at their checkpoints as a thank you for not drinking and driving as you go through them. Also, this past 4th of July, we decided to target the lake. We know a lot of kids, a lot of 21, 24-year-olds go to the lake for 4th of July. So we have a building wrap at Green Springs Grocery. I don't know if you all have seen that. It's right on the side of their building. We also had coasters at Sportsman's Marina. We gave koozies to Jimbo's in Green Springs. So in the target group, when they purchased alcohol, they got a free koozie as a reminder to stay safe this holiday. The game wardens gave out floatable keychains to the boaters for their keys, so if they're drinking on their boats, or they'll be reminded once you're partying on your boats, do not go home and drink and drive if you're not operating the vehicle or the boat. We also had banners up and down 75 as a reminder. Some of our outcomes of this project is that we've created over 50 partnerships in the county, and they all want to continue to help us distribute these items. We've also created a great partnership with Kevin Costello in tourism. We heard about the Thursday night jams, and we wanted to get a banner in the beer garden. So he was great in accepting to have our message there. We really created a win-win situation, and we're happy to continue that partnership with future events. And he's also will be traveling with us to Williamsburg in May to present our partnership with him at our statewide conference. Some other data that we have is we have decreased the crashes by 16%. The perception of risk is going up with the college students. They see that binge drinking is a great risk. And we're seeing more of the target group say that they use designated drivers. So all that is really great outcomes for this project. This project is ending in May, and we're hoping to sustain all 3 of these strategies through community efforts. Both colleges have already agreed to pick up their pieces of the project, which were the Basics program and e-check up to go. And law enforcement also they'll continue the saturation patrols. This has been such a successful project, and we hope it continues and we can sustain it. Are there any questions?
No, but thank you. I'm impressed with what you've done, and thank you for the effort. That 21 to 24 year age is a pretty dangerous time for a lot of young people, and thank you for what your group is doing, and I'm very pleased to hear the partnerships you have, including partnerships with our town staff, and thank you very much. Are there other questions or comments? Thank you. We'll look forward to seeing you back here again.
All right, thanks.
All right, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All righty. Let's see. I believe I see who gentleman referred to as, I believe, K2.
K3.
K3. All right, Mr. Kevin Costello.
The two full-timers.
certainly get top billing.
All righty, very good, sir.
Mayor Morgan, members of council, it's always an honor to be able to come and give my annual State of the Trees address.
Very good, sir.
It's always good to be able to be back up here and give you all an update on what the Tree Commission has been able to accomplish and what we've got looking forward to there in the future. I hope you all got the information sent out there Friday. The highlights from this past year, of course, the biggest thing of always is being able to keep our Tree City USA status. We've been able to do that. We had our Arbor Day celebration at Watauga Elementary School. It was a great event and it was a wonderful time, and we really enjoyed being able to do that, and I appreciate council's support with that as always. We've had our tree plantings. We are really putting a major emphasis on working with the Coombs Center in terms of putting in trees there around the walking trail over there. We've got a significant number of trees in over there. We've got some more planned for over there that I'll be talking about here soon. We had some memorial trees at Veterans Park. We put in some evergreens over at Munchkin Park. Oh, goodness gracious, I'm having a moment here. I can't remember what it is. But we put in an oak tree over the Finley House, and, of course, the Academy Drive project as well. We did plantings all in there. We completed our first year with the Abingdon Tree Initiative. Glad to say we do consider that to be a success. As a matter of fact, we've got people from over in the first area that are now calling to wonder if they can be included in this year's, even though they're not part of the target area. Of course, we're going to say yes. We're not going to exclude them out. But the area that we're targeting this year is basically from exit 19 over to Whites Mill Road. It's approximately 700 properties. We sent out the initial information back at the first of the year, and we're going to be sending out the reminder postcards here soon now that spring is sprung and people are getting outside, so it's our time there for that. We're continuing our affiliation with the Bonnie Appleton Memorial Scholarship Program. This is something that I've been working on, and actually I'm chairing the national committee on that right now. So I'm very happy to be able to report that we're about halfway where we want to be with that, and I appreciate the town's support with this in the past, and we look forward to being able to continue with that. But that is something that I see as a very important thing for scholarship. That's something that for the world of arboriculture, and I'm very glad to say we're a part of that. Back in November, I attended a tree risk assessment requalification down at Virginia Beach. Fortunately, I passed, and that's going on, and so that's always something. It's always something good to have here. I also took training with the Virginia Big Tree Volunteer Program, and you can see, I think I've sent out information in terms of some of the trees that we've been interested in. Of course, the green ash there at the Fields Pen House is the third largest green ash on record in the state of Virginia. I have not had the opportunity to get up there to the other trees that you and I have talked about before, but they're on my list to do so. The website's right there for you if you want to take a look at those. We also have the slippery elm up there off of Barter Drive. That's on there too, and I certainly am looking forward to adding more trees from Southwest Virginia. We do have a ginkgo tree down on the Gate City Highway that once we get permission from the property owner, we'll be adding to that. So it's not Abingdon, at least it is Southwest Virginia. So I'm glad for that.
We had a big maple down near the Creeper Trailhead.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Speaking engagements, gave them my annual tree pruning presentation of the Washington County Master Gardeners. This year I've been able to work with the Bristol, Tennessee Tree Keepers. Was able to go up and speak to the Department of Horticulture there at Virginia Tech. Did a program with Hungry Mother State Park, and just recently I did some training with the Envirothon program, which is something that the Soil and Water Conservation Group puts on for high school students. As a matter of fact, I'll be going tomorrow afternoon over to Abingdon High School and reviewing their program, and then maybe even being one of the judges statewide here later on in the year. So it's something that I think is a good affiliation and something that makes the town, I think it's a good feather in our cap there for that. I've continued our association with the town of Marion, the board of directors with Trees Virginia and MAC ISA. I continue on with that. And then as always, what I consider my thing I enjoy the most really is being able to work with the residents here in this community.
in terms of any concerns or any issues they may have. I like being able to get out there and talk with them on that. Goals and objectives for 2015. Of course, we want to continue our Tree City USA program. We want to definitely keep the town qualified for that. We want to continue on with our Avenue Tree Initiative. We want to get that going as much as possible. Our indoor ash borer workshop is still on hold right now because Mr. Revel is still has not been able to come back to work. He is suffering from pancreatic cancer right now, and we're hoping that he'll get back to work later in the year. And out of respect with his involvement with that, we have delayed on that. So, but hopefully we'll get back in there on that. One thing I did not put on the list right there, something I failed to put on there. The Tree Commission is looking at the ash trees that we do have on our town property, and we are considering with the smaller trees, the trees that have not made any significant size, something that would not have a great impact on the town right now, is go ahead and changing those trees out and getting something in there that's not going to cause an issue down the road. And so that's something that we've been working on. Unfortunately, the majority of these trees don't seem to be in a major public area right now. And so these are the ones I think we're going to go ahead and be changing out and getting something in there that will, a little more pest resistant, something we won't have to deal with there in the future. Like I said, right now, while they're small. Those big trees, of course, we'll continue to work with them. But the small ones we want to change out. We got new plantings planned. Continue on with the Coombs Rec Center. One of the things that I've been working with Mr. Worley on is that we want to do something called a species gardens. Is where in the areas where we have a certain grouping of trees, like I said, more of dogwoods. What we want to do is we want to have the different types of dogwoods right there, where people can see see how they look, how and be able to compare them close up, and be able to compare apples to apples in a close range right there. We're talking about dogwoods, we're talking about the redbuds, we're talking about the flowering cherry trees, and we were talking about the urban pathways, Mr. Humphreys. And the thing is right there, we just don't have a lot of room right there right now. So I think the Coombs Center might be our best fit for that right now. So, and so we're also talking about there on Valley Street and some openings that we've got with some of the trees that we've been having to take down over there. Continue on the Virginia Big Tree Program. Want to continue our support for the Bonnie Appleton Scholarship. One thing we do want to do in regards to what happened last June is that we want to get out there on Main Street now that the weather's getting good. I want to get out there and inspect the trees that are on Main Street and make sure that we don't have any more occurrences like that. You can't guarantee anything, but we can always get out there, and if there's something out there we need to see and find out about, that's what we really need to do. So I need to spend some time this spring and get out there and take a good hard look at those trees. We want to continue on to be available to the town residents, and of course I want to make y'all aware of our Arbor Day celebration this year, which is going to be at Greendale Elementary School on it's actually Thursday, April 23rd. And it'll be at 1 o'clock, and y'all are most welcome to come, and we really appreciate it. What it is, they've got an outdoor classroom out there in the back that they started several years ago, kind of fell into disrepair. They're trying to get it back going again. Appalachian Power has been supplying mulch for the area right there, and we are getting that area going. We're going to plant a couple dogwood trees there on Arbor Day, and so it's going to be a good time, and I think the kids will have a big time with that. So that being said, I'm willing to open up for questions or any comments or anything from the council, anybody from the general public?
I just wanted you to, if you wouldn't mind, tell them about the trail. There will be a large tree coming down there on Valley Street.
Yes, sir.
Tell them where it is so they can be prepared when it does come down.
It's up here adjacent to 151 West Valley. Yeah, excuse me, I'm pointing the wrong direction. Thank you. 151 West Valley. This is a tree we've been looking at for quite a while. We were thinking about taking it down several years ago. Some of the adjacent neighbors were really asking that we could hold on to it for as long as possible. Trees starting to drop some pretty large branches, and so we've just got to get the thing out of there. We did talk to those people, and the tree has been marked and placarded, and we are in the process right now of entertaining bids for the tree to be removed. And of course, we'll put something else back in there, but it's had its time, and it's a thing I hate to see. We hate to lose a big tree, but that tree is just in a state of decline, and it's just not safe anymore. So it's got to go and be changed out.
Well, as a town, we have tried very hard to first of all, recognize our trees as an important economic asset of the town, and, manage them in a professional way. I think we had one of the first tree commissions established in southwestern Virginia.
It's still just Abingdon and Marion, west of Roanoke, yes.
Well, and, it's been a good move for us. The process, we really have come to understand the value of the trees on public property, and it's been a good educational tool to preserve and to manage our urban forests in a good way. I've certainly appreciated having the opportunity to serve on that commission, and several of us here have done that, and it's a good program. I will note that, it was not mentioned in your annual report, but prior to when I had knee problems, I would spend a lot of time up in the Veterans Memorial Park, and we have a grove of about 75 of the new American chestnut trees up there. And this year they produced chestnuts, and it was a wonderful thing to see that and to see, those trees come along. And I'm very grateful that we have that for people to be able to see and to look at the future of what was an important species.
I look forward to those things continue to go. I might add that we will have one quote-unquote memorial tree to plant up there this year, there in Veterans Park. It is for Mr. Monty Vernon. And so we're planting a giant sequoia up there for him.
I can't think of a more tree. It may take it a while to reach its growth.
Yes, it is, and it's got to be planted in a special place because it doesn't really tolerate the winds quite so well around here, but I think we've got a good spot for it.
Well,
so.
and we do encourage people to visit the Veterans Memorial Park and Arboretum, where we have a nice collection of power line compatible trees, along with the American chestnuts that I mentioned, and then there's probably 75 different species of trees.
We got about 45 to 50 trees in there right now in terms of the memorial trees.
Yes, and a nice selection, one of which is one of the roundleaf birches, which one not many years ago was the rarest tree in the United States.
Yes, sir.
Butilla arbor. I used to know the Latin for it. Do we have other questions?
Yeah.
And Doug Ogle, I think, was the person.
Doug Ogle, yes, was the man who identified it here. Well, there is other action on the hardwood tonight.
Yes, sir. As I have been reminded.
Yes, sir. So I'd be remiss, although the subject is very dear to my heart.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And once again, I do appreciate the support that you guys give this department. This is certainly not always the case throughout the state with my affiliations. Some urban forestry or arborist departments face very much an uphill battle. This is a unique place, and I very much appreciate you guys.
Well, thank you for saying so. Again, we have appreciated what we've got and how it fits into, the ambience of the town and the comfort and many other things, as well as making it a good place to live. And we try to manage our trees. Mr. Humphreys.
I do have one thing, and of course, I think I ask this every year, but I'm going to ask you, I was going to ask for this if I am.
Got the pin out.
No, but maybe the next time you address this, you might want to bring this up. You don't need to talk about it now.
Okay.
But as we progress, and there's a lot of arborist work to do, between the ash borers, between all the work you do as far as doing checking the trees on Main Street, checking the trees on Valley Street, answering all the people around our consumers or your consumers about what tree is suitable. When are we going to come to a point that we might need an arborist more than one day?
That's a good question.
And so if you would think about that and maybe talk about it the next time, because, it just seems like there's a lot of work to do. You're doing a lot of work and you're doing a great job. But it looks like that if these trees are an asset and so important to us, that we might want to invest just a little bit more, maybe a half a day more. Whatever.
Let us know.
We'll certainly be discussing that in the future.
Very good, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all you do and for all our tree commission does as well. Okay. Next item is consideration of a council motion relative to the Cruise Inn Classic Car Club. Mr.
This one.
Well, I'm prone to doing that, and shame on me. Consideration of appropriation of funding to sponsor the annual YW Tribute to Women. Ms. During, I'm sorry I overlooked you there, I'll let you make that presentation, please.
Thank you very much. YWCA for 24 years has had a regional recognition of women, and they accept nominations from Kingsport, Johnson City, Bristol, and Abingdon, Virginia. And it's a very competitive process. There are nominations submitted. They are judged by out-of-state judges who are experts in their fields. And I'm honored to be the chair of the event this year. I think they've had close to 2,000 women nominated over the past 24 years and about 175 recipients. Abingdon is well represented this year. I am the chair, as I said, and I'm very honored to be that. Also, we have 2 honorees from Abingdon. And one woman was awarded Abingdon's Arthur C. Campbell Award last fall, and that is our highest community service award, and that was to Mrs. Jan Hurt. So she will be honored in the arts category. And then you might be aware of the other person. It is Kathy Lowe, Vice Mayor of Abingdon, Virginia, and she was nominated for her accomplishments in the business division. I would ask for the council's consideration to an entry-level sponsorship. It's $1,500. There is recognition, small recognition on the website, YW website and social media, logo recognition in the banquet program, banquet presentation and display poster, table card, table for 8 at the banquet, which is Thursday, April 23rd, and a keepsake. I don't know what that keepsake is, but it'll be a keepsake. So I would ask in support of Abingdon's well-represented women that the council consider this.
I believe that was a motion, if I don't mistake it there. All righty, we have what we've considered as a motion for the town of Abingdon to provide support at the entry-level position for the YW program Tribute to Women. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second to be a sponsor for that particular program. Any further discussion? Some may need to abstain here, but all right.
I do think it's very worthwhile. I think that one year my mother received this award also several years ago.
There have been many Abingdon women. There's a funny story when they were first forming this presentation 24 years ago. They approached one gentleman, and he said, well, this sounds all fine and good, but do you ever think you'll have enough women to recognize? So thanks to the nominators, and it is, the nominators are an essential step in this whole process, but yes, we've got plenty more.
And a lot of them have found Abingdon to be a good place to live, and they've helped to make Abingdon a good place to live. And we deeply appreciate that. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, I'll ask another talented woman at the end of the line here. She'll call the roll, please.
I would just like to clarify that you would like for this to come appropriation from council contingency.
Yes, ma'am. I believe that'd be an appropriate addition to the motion.
And Ms. Dury?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Abstain.
And Mayor Morgan?
Aye. All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate your efforts on behalf of that. That brings us to old. Yes, ma'am. You may.
The table, how many tickets did you say?
8.
Stephen and I received free tickets, and the Chamber of Commerce, which is who sponsored me, has bought their tickets. So there are actually 8 seats available for whoever.
Okay. And remind me, please, when that
Thursday, April 23, it's at the Holiday Inn, exit 7.
Okay.
Starts at 6 p.m. with a silent auction, and the dinner and presentation starts at 7:15.
All right. Perhaps several of us here might be able to make it.
Thank you.
All righty. Thank you. Okay, and that brings us to items of old business. Consideration of council motion relative to the Cruise In Classic Car Club. Mr. Kelly.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council, if you'll recall, 2 months ago, council heard from the Cruise In Classic Car Club relative to an event that they wanted to do on Main Street that would involve shutting down Main Street and would be a cost to the club of having to pay for the police officers and the barricades to have the street closed off. At that point in time, council appropriated some funding for that event directly to the car club. After we left, I did some thinking about it and looked further into it, and I thought that perhaps this would be better suited as a function of the Abingdon Main Street organization. As a result, council directed that I meet with the Abingdon Main Street folks and with Classic Car Club to see if the money were put into the Main Street program instead of the Classic Car Club, if that would be acceptable. And I have met with both of those organizations, and everyone was in agreement to allow Main Street to be the sponsor of that particular event. And what this would have what this in effect would be doing would be not singling out any one organization to give money to a specific event. Rather, we would be funding one of our own organizations, which is the Abingdon Main Street organization, to carry out this type of an event. So what I had requested is that the original motion and appropriation be rescinded, and that a new appropriation be made giving that amount of money to the Abingdon Main Street organization. And I believe Ms. Rosenbaum would, if council is so inclined to do that, she would know who made the motion and made the second.
I made the motion.
Okay, so we'll need to walk through this a little bit. So we have a...
So, Mr. Mayor, I think we can do that.
That'll be fine.
So I move that, I move to rescind the motion to give the Abingdon Car Club $1,000 for their car show. And should I just rescind it first and then?
I think that might be cleaner. All right, and who seconded it? Okay.
So I'll rescind it second.
Okay, we have a motion to rescind our previous allocation to the Classic Car Club and a second. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, I'll ask Ms. Rosenbaum to call the roll, please.
Mrs. During? Aye. Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Care to make another motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we allocate $1,000 to the Main Street organization to be used toward the Classic Car Show to be held May the 30th.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to allocate $1,000 to the Abingdon Main Street program. I believe that would technically be called Advance Abingdon.
Abingdon Main Street.
By golly, yeah, all right, it's always the last to get it right. So again, we're looking to make an allocation to the Abingdon Main Street program of $1,000 be used in support of the Classic Car Club's program, which, remind me the date again, May the 30th on Main Street in Abingdon. And do we have the second?
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comment?
I just have one, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
The same one that I raised when we started this before.
Okay.
And that it's just, will this precedent now, I guess that I want to ask,
Will this precedent mean that the Kiwanis Club Christmas, the Rotary contributions for the frolics, and the Virginia Highlands Festival appropriations pass through the same Main Street?
No.
That was the...
I would not consider it a precedent. I consider personally for this to be a one-time decision. It may be revisited in the future, but that's my own take on it.
The car club does not have nonprofit status, so that does make a difference.
Yeah.
They don't have one?
Okay.
So with that, so anyone without a 501c3 would be subject to the same?
Well, that would be the cleanest way to do those types of things, but other types of functions, like some of them that you referenced, are, even though they're not technically deemed town events, they're recognized as town events. The Highlands Festival, more people call me than they probably call the Highlands Festival to find out
Sure.
information about the Highlands Festival.
Well, no, I don't doubt the association. The only thing I was doubting was the line of travel with money, so.
Any other comments, questions? Let's see, did we vote?
We need to vote, yeah.
All right, would you call the roll, please?
Okay. Mrs. Dury? Aye. Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Thank you very much. That brings us to matters not on the agenda. If there is anyone present tonight who wishes to address the council or bring a matter to the council's attention, they're welcome to come forward at the present time. Yes, sir, come forward, please. And thank you for your patience as we've plowed through
He's been very patient.
Mr. Mayor and other council members. My name is James Counts. I live at 415 Summer Street, and I have a request on my behalf and 5 of my neighbors concerning the curbing. Rather than make a short story long, can I just share this letter signed by myself and the letter itself, excuse me, is self-explanatory. Basically, upon the completion of the sidewalk and curbing and everything along White Mill Road, and in addition to that, the curbing was done partway on Summer Street on the southern side, from the corner up to the creek. There's existing already curbing on the northern side from the top about halfway down. So what we're requesting, and I spoke with Mr. Dew and also Mr. Chafin, and they came and they were already familiar with it, of course. But I discussed this with them, and Mr. Dew suggested I come and speak with you about this. And he still, correct me if I'm wrong here, Mr. Dew, but he's suggesting perhaps a best approach on this would be to widen that end, the lower end of the of Summer Street to conform with the width on the upper end. Oddly enough, it narrows as it comes down, and this creates a traffic bottleneck. And our main concern is water runoff. As it's coming down the hill, down the street, it's being diverted over into the yards of my yard and 5 other properties there, and we have standing water. Whereas this curb would alleviate that and divert it back to the street. So we're talking like 500 feet probably from the corner up to the existing curbing. So if you look over those 4 reasons for our request, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to give them to Mr. Dew.
Good for you.
So the curbing, I'm familiar with that area, so you're saying at Debbie Wood's house, it rounds that corner and then stops
Right.
at her driveway.
Mhm.
And then it stops until it starts up the hill.
Right.
So at the Lincoln's house, there is no curbing, and at your house, there. Now, is there curbing on the other side where the road on
South side of
from
it, yeah.
Summer Street that leads to the senior
Drive,
center?
yes.
Okay, so the only place that there's no curbing is just that one?
Correct. And we added the curb that we just put in on the south side of Summer Street was not originally part of the pedestrian improvement project, but we had to make some storm drain changes upstream from Summer Street, so there was going to be more water coming to Summer Street. We're diverting it to the south side, and we added that additional curbing to get it to the creek. But as Mr. Counts said, we had a nice, productive meeting out there one day. That leaves for entire Summer Street, that just leaves that one gap on the north side. And, you know, we do have funding and some budget items to do some yearly curb and gutter and sidewalk work. I don't think that amount would be enough to do that entire gap. So what we talked about, or what I discussed, the possibility was to try to make it a project and try to go through this process of getting it funded possibly if we couldn't come up with funds and other budget items to do the work.
I believe there's been a bit of a history of water-related problems on that street. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Some issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's even more so since several years back, the new sewer line was put in, and it seems like there's kind of a valley down through there, and the water stays in that, whereas the curb would push it back to the street. And the whole other side is curbed all the way up. So, as he said, just that short span there.
So the south side of it is curved all the way up, and then
Yes.
on the north side of it, there's
It's about a 500-foot gap, and I think that was probably maybe just the way the development happened on Summer Street.
Yeah.
And again, the town's had that long-standing policy, if people want curb and gutter in front of their property, it was a
Yeah.
50-50 cost split, and some people do, some people don't.
you don't build a lot of curb and gutter that way.
No, exactly. I know you're very familiar with
Oh,
that,
yes.
and the sidewalks as well, yeah.
So you said you have some, you might have some funding in this budget. For one thing, what do you think it would cost? I know we can't tie you down, but.
To do the entire section, well, if it's just curb and gutter, it wouldn't be nearly as bad. If we were going to try to extend sidewalk, that'd be more. My thought is, it would be nice to extend sidewalk on the south side where we ended it at White's Mill for this project, take it to Senior Drive where there is sidewalk already, if we could get that far, but curb and gutter on the north side. And at the same time, widen out the crossing of the creek right there, because that's where it really narrows, is right at the creek, and that's where it limits, I think it's only about 21, 22 feet wide at that point there. So we would have to extend the pipes at the creek on both ends, and then take curb and gutter up the side. So to answer your question, I don't want to throw a number out right now until I, do a little calculation on it. But
Could you do the calculation and get
I'd be
back
glad
with
to.
Mr. Counts and this group and
I'd be
us,
glad
and let us know, and
Let's just say it'll be on the next agenda.
is it feasible to be on the next?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, then we'll ask our clerk to place it on the, on the agenda for our May meeting. And Mr. Counts, we appreciate you bringing the matter to our attention, and hope that we'll be able to help remedy the problem that you have over there.
Okay.
and all questions go to me? Is that?
Yes, sir.
Call me.
All right, and again, thank you for your patience as we've waded through these details tonight. Okay, we don't have appointments to boards and committees, but I do believe there is an occasion to see if we can find a night sometime in April for when I say a night or an occasion in April, we might have a council work session. Is that feasible for us to sort through that this evening? We seem to have very busy schedules.
And you're targeting an evening?
That's a good start.
We have a morning meeting. We have a morning call meeting. We might
We
do
do.
something for that.
I think I'm going to end up being Ms. Dury and I are going to have issues with the week, next week, and the next week I will be out of town at my clerk's conference the whole week. Thankfully, passing the gavel as president of the state association, which I'm happy to do.
So you're going to be gone the week of the 20th through the 24th?
Jane and I will be out of town next week, and then I'll be out of town the next week.
I'll be out the 20th through 24th.
Yeah, I'll that week too. So.
Well, and that leaves, the end of the month, the 27th. I don't know that it's feasible to do it.
We have a morning meeting that morning.
What day is that?
Morning meeting on the 27th at 8:30.
Okay, we could try and do it on the 27th. Well, some of us work for a living, but we.
And Bob will just be coming back from vacation.
Yeah.
I could do that.
What about like the 29th, which is the Wednesday evening or afternoon before the Like April 29th,
At what time?
whatever's good. 6, 5:30, I don't care.
Label it, right?
I am too.
I could do that, I've got a tour.
All right. So the 29th at what time, please? How about 6 o'clock, and we don't have any, meal or anything like that? Okay, so we would have a council work session on the 29th, and I believe, we'll be talking about historic buildings and so forth, if I recall correctly, as a primary topic.
And maybe some of the rest of the work session items we didn't get through.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. We had
It's
a,
already a full agenda if we don't add anything.
Yeah.
It is.
okay, all right, so do we need a motion to that effect, Ms. Rosenbaum?
No.
Okay, so we're going
I'll
to,
write it down as the 29th.
all right, we'll meet at 29th, 6 o'clock in the downstairs meeting room.
And I want to remind you all too that you have dinner in Bristol on the 15th.
Okay?
I believe you'll leave from here.
We sent out another notice on that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
15th or 16th, I can't remember.
Okay. Now,
It's the 15th, but
all right.
you said downstairs, I thought we decided to come up here and start having our work sessions if we weren't going to eat.
Yeah, do you want to do that? Do you want to start that?
I don't, I'm open to that if, we may need access to slides and maps or something like that. I'm just wondering if that would be more accessible downstairs for this meeting. What's your pleasure, folks?
Ask John if he can provide.
He's
that.
handling all the questions.
Can you handle it? No, I don't know about John Phelps.
Can you do that up here just as well?
Slides and stuff like that?
All right, then let's do it up here. Okay, all right, very good. Now, I recognize Mr. Counts earlier, and I was remiss in not asking if there was anybody else that might have a wish to address the council. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to, is there any other items as a council that we need to address this evening? Then I'll ask if there are matters, reports that the council members wish to bring to our attention. Mr. Humphreys, do you have anything you wish to comment
Just going to
about?
mention that tonight is the Abingdon Little League's kickoff for their season. I don't know how many seasons it is. It's like, I don't know, 50, 60 seasons that they've been, maybe longer.
So,
but what reminded me of it was that we talked about the purchase of property on Russell Road. And I just
Yes.
wanted to see how we were coming along on the parking lot.
They're working on it. They've
We're
got
getting
it.
ready to solicit quotes to do the paving. If you've seen out there now, we have the base stone down, so we're
Yeah.
going to solicit quotes.
So we're going to do we're going to do.
Asphalt.
Really?
Where the road realignment is, not on
The
the
road
parking lot.
realignment,
Okay,
not
not
the parking lot.
Oh, okay, okay.
The parking lot's going to remain gravel, but
Good.
once we get the roadway paved, the new roadway alignment, we'll be able to take up some of the barriers that we have now. We'll also pull up the existing asphalt that comes in at such a sharp angle. That'll be green space, and then we'll, clear up the parking lot area, clean up the parking lot area.
Will we put any additional crosswalks in?
Yeah, there's going to be a crosswalk. We're going to relocate the existing crosswalk to where the new road alignment comes in.
Do we think this will be done this season?
Yes. Yeah, we're hoping to have it paved in within 2 to 3 weeks, the new road alignment.
There will also be a fence and some landscaping. Everybody will be directed to the crosswalk, so they have no choice but to cross it.
Good, that'll be excellent. That was excellent. That was my hope, is we're on a couple of years that that we'd have this done this season. Actually, to lead the season off, but, I knew we were going to be able to do that, so.
And there should be an automatic timer on the flashing light.
Right. We've been working with the Little League to get their schedule to have the flashers on time with their practices and games.
Yeah.
Very good,
Yeah.
very good. Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
Okay, Vice Mayor Lowell.
Just a question. We're looking at the taxi ordinance now that the General Assembly has. I thought I saw that in your report, Ms.
We're working
Eisenhower.
on it.
Okay, thank you.
I wrote that note tomorrow.
Oh,
Okay, Mr. Howard?
No, I don't have anything tonight.
Ms. Doring?
No, thank you.
Okay, and I'm not going to hold us up any longer. It's been a full evening here. I thank everyone for coming. We appreciate your interest and good service to our town, and we'll look forward to seeing you in May, if not before. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Here's.